Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Zoom into Wine. It's time for the show and your host, Ian Blackburn.
Well, good evening. Welcome to Zoom into Wine. It's Wednesday night, New Year's Eve, and I thought I'd do a special champagne edition just for your New Year's Eve celebrations. My name is Ian Blackburn. I run learnaboutwine.com, and I've done so for the past 30 years. About 5 years ago, I started my own wine store called The Merchant of Wine. And during the pandemic, we were not able to do our classes as normally scheduled. So we turned to Zoom. It's been 5 years now. And I'm very thankful to be able to use this platform. It didn't exist before. And so it's really fun to be able to reach people in different ways. Started with tonight's Zoom. The House of Roederer is going to be our product tonight. And so to get started, what I'm going to do is open my half bottle of champagne, which many people received all over the country, a half bottle of champagne. And what I want to do is just start by opening it with everybody because, some people are still a little afraid of opening a bottle of champagne and maybe don't know that this cage is on there to hold the cork down. There's 6 bars of atmospheric pressure in a bottle of champagne. So we count to 5.5, and this cage will unlock, okay? I just move my fingers around and unlock the cage. I actually keep the cage on the bottle for grip and to hold on to the cork, because what I'm gonna turn isn't the cork, but the base of the bottle. And just by turning the base of the bottle, the cork will lift and rise. And I've got a good grip on that. So I'm just going to lean it over to the side and let the gas escape like that. Okay, so now the bottle's open. And we're going to pour ourselves a celebratory glass of one of the most magical wines ever made. I love wines of the world, but when people ask me what my favorite wine is, I'm going to tell you it's champagne. And tonight we're drinking Roederer Collection. This is the 246.5 bottle. Some people got the Roederer Collection 245 in the full bottle. And we also have the Cristal, which is the Tête Cuvée of Roederer. And some people got the 2016 Cristal. So thank you guys all for joining this Zoom tonight. I know a lot of you are going to be watching it at different moments, but I want to thank you guys for a great 2025. Our store had a record year, not only in the total sales for the store, but also the average size of our orders has increased drastically, and we're sending wine to so many people in so many places, and we're really trying to take that approach for the store to go forward, really making sure that we're carrying great wines that you may or may not get introduced to. If you go to a famous wine store, a Costco, a grocery store, these are wines that are too small. These are artisan producers. Now, not everything falls into that line. Of course, champagne houses kind of cross all boundaries. I got to carry some good stuff from different levels there too. I want to be dependable for you, and I want to be the best solution for you. So we worked hard to make the pricing right. Of course, we have free delivery in Los Angeles, $20 in California, and $40 nationwide where legal. And those are some pretty strong competitive advantages that we can provide because our pricing is pretty damn sharp. And again, if you're a member at Merchant of Wine, you'll get 10% off all year round. And I promise you, if you go to Wine Searcher and you look at the pricing, you're going to see our prices are already at the top of the market. So you're going to be really, our margins are going to be Costco-esque and wines that Costco can't even carry. So that's kind of the whole idea behind this membership drive and everything else that we're doing there. So to you guys, let's get started and tasting some Roederer champagne. This is Louis Roederer, established in 1775. Champagne is the most northern growing region in France. And so I'll quickly say that most champagne is multi-vintage for a lot of different reasons, though. And that is one, that northern position in France makes every vintage a little challenging. And if any one place in the world has been benefiting from global warming, it's Champagne. The warmer vintages have brought about more quality and more dependability and more confidence. So the growers are growing more, you know, biodynamic, sustainable, organic. These are things they never would have thought of before. And technology is backing them up, better understanding, better wisdom. Grandpa's not making the wine anymore. It's all about, graduates from amazing wine universities all over the world. They get to Champagne, they're passing it on generation to generation. Champagne's got a lot of good things working for it. Now they still will have some tough finishes. 21 was a horrific rain all all throughout the wrong time of the year. And so you're going to see very little 2021, but the other vintages that are surrounded are all pretty solid. And we're going to continue to talk about better and better wine quality. And so we're going to start seeing more and more vintage wines coming to the market. But here's the rub. Vintage wines really need to be about 10 years old before they really achieve their best moments. And so multi-vintage wines like this Roederer collection is really going to bring something added because they use a couple different vintages and they make it so that it's pretty close to ready to drink when you purchase it. And will still improve. And I'm going to give you 100 reasons why this wine is so fantastic. And this is why we're talking about Roederer, because I don't think they get enough respect. Not only were they founded back in the 1700s, right? But the house has been family run since, and it's one of the few family owned independent champagne houses left today. They do have an incredible operation. Their CEO must be a magician. He's taking up amazing opportunities to invest, and they're making all the right moves. Here's the president of Louis Roederer. Here's Jean Baptiste, the executive vice president in charge of the Roederer collection. So they got a lot of wisdom at the top of the food chain at Roederer, helping them make these decisions. Here's another a couple of little facets that a lot of champagne houses can't say. 1850, they got 100 hectares of their own vineyards, and they've continued to purchase. They're now at 593 acres, which is 410 separate plots. Now that sounds like a lot, but that's kind of what champagne is. It's a lot of small plot management. And whether you own the plot or you're buying the fruit from a family, there are thousands of families that also grow fruit. And so a lot of houses are basically a culmination of the relationships that they have. Now, Roederer, there's going to be a really significant number coming up on here on the bullet point number 5. Their land holdings provide 70% of their need. And for the size of the House of Roederer and for the importance of this house, to be able to provide 70% of your own needs is very rare. This is really important. And I'm going to come back to that a couple of times throughout this presentation. Of the acreage, 53% is dedicated to the grape Pinot Noir, 41 Chardonnay, and 6 to Meunier. And those are the 3 working grapes of Champagne. Now, all the land that Roederer occupies too is Premier Cru and Grand Cru. That is also really an important distinction about the quality of the land that they own, the quantity that they own, and that all lays into why these wines are so amazing. These are the different appellations. You can see in the coloration where their land holdings are, and that's kind of cool. They've got properties all throughout the northern part of Champagne in and around Rennes. And as you come south through the Montanda Rennes and into Epernay and Aix and down through the Côte de Blancs, they have parcels that represent all those areas, and they're able to make a really beautiful blended wine like this one because of that diversity of soil, the diversity of place, but the consistent high quality Premier Cru and Grand Cru level that they own. Their viticulture is really another key. They are certified or practicing certified sustainability, which is really, their sustainability practices are biodynamic, and that is a really added level of quality that they're bringing to the table. So biodynamic farming, like I said, 10, 15 years ago, that was a dream. But today it is a reality, and it's helping elevate the wine quality because of the purity and the focus on the purity. And by the way, the way you get to biodynamics is huge work, handwork in the vineyards all the time. And that keeps the quality of the fruit better because you're there working and you're not depending on chemicals and robots and machines. It's really a lot of wisdom in the vineyards. They say that the mark of great winemaker is their footprint in the vineyard. So that's a very important part of why these wines are also so fantastic. Biodynamics. There's a group called Demeter if you want to look up biodynamics and learn more about all that's involved. But it is really a high level, almost spiritual level of grape growing when you have this relationship with your vineyards. Their winemaking facilities are spectacular. They're beautiful, they're state-of-the-art. They have not a want or wish that they need. They have a great collection of barrels and tanks, and optimally built for quality winemaking. And they have established what's called a perpetual reserve, which basically means they started in 12, and every year they may add 15% and take 15% away. And that is going to continue to give them a reserve for their blended wine, which probably equates to about 20 to 30% in different years, where they're adding very old wine to elevate the quality here. And when you learn more about this quality, as we're going to say, there's a lot to appreciate about what they're doing. This is a massive investment. Now, they do have a really complete line, so let me just go over it really quickly. They have a wine called the Collection, which is what we're trying, and we're trying the iteration 246 today. So the full bottle's 245. And those iterations come out every couple of years. They'll make a new iteration. This is the 246th iteration that they've created since the house was founded. They have also another wine called Carte Blanche, which we're not going to talk about, but that is vintage. Their Brut is vintage. Their Rosé is vintage. Their Blanc de Blanc is vintage. So these wines are the only non-vintage wines that they are making, which is another a very impressive statement about the House of Roederer. Of course, their top wine is Cristal. We'll talk about that a little bit more later. But they also make a wine with Philippe Starck that is also vintage. That's their Blanc and their Rosé, and those cool packages that on the end there are there. So you might see those out there. Here is the Cristal line. Cristal is always about 10 years in bottle, and the current vintage for our Cristal customers tonight is 2016. We did not offer the Rosé. The Rosé in my store currently, I believe, is 2013. And then they make another iteration called Vinotech, which are further aging the Cristal wines to really show off how they age. And the current vintage there is 2000. So they are selling 2000 vintage champagne under the Vinotech name. As you can imagine, those wines get a little pricier. Collection 245 is really the wine that got us started in this thought. I was able to sit with the winemaker and the director of sales and learn about this very high selection that they're making. This 245 or 246, we could talk about them almost interchangeably. The percentages are just minute changes, but take a look here. 41 Chardonnay, 35 Pinot Noir, 24 Meunier. Okay, that's the breakdown of the varietals, but they also know that it's about a third coming from the Vallée de la Marne, a third coming from the Montagne de Reims, and a third coming from the Côte de Blancs from their holdings. Now here's where it gets even more interesting. The base on this 245 was the vintage 2020. So they got about 55% of the 2020 wine was from the year 2020. 35% was from the perpetual reserve. Okay, so that means they've got wine from 12 to 19. So that gets you up to about 90%. 10% of the wine was from the oak-aged reserve wines sourced from young Cristal vines. Yes, Cristal is 100% from vineyards that Roederer owns. Those vines are from the very best sites, and those wines see oak aging. So this is another complication to the wine. They go through and they make the wine, they figure out how much malolactic or MLF they're going to let the wine go through. That's a breaking of the acid from malic acid to lactic acid, and they do that through bacteria, and that softens the wine, gives it kind of that buttery, creamy texture if you let it go all the way. But at 22%, it just adds the textural note. The wine's got 3 years in the bottle. The law says they only need to go for about 15, 16 months. So 3 years is a huge overstatement in time. And then the dosage is complementary. They can change it every year, but when you have such good fruit, you don't need to overdose or add a lot of sugar to make the wine better. Sugar used to hide flaws, and now that the wines are getting closer and closer to flawless, it's just enough sugar to balance the incredibly high acid that you're going to get in the Champagne region. And some wines of Champagne are even lower than 7 grams, but your enjoyment of them may vary depending on what you're having it with. And so the idea here is that you're going to be having Collection 245 at a lot of special occasions, special toasts, special moments, and you're probably going to be drinking it in the relative, 4 or 5 year, if not 4 to 5 minute range from when you bought it. So you want something that's pretty rewarding early. Now, 246, I said the numbers are almost identical here. I mean, again, 35 in the perpetual reserve, 10% with the oak aging. They're around 30% MLF and all that stuff. So the only adjustments are minute, okay? And so they've really got their game down. They know how they're going to go about the approach. I've got 246 in my glass, and I'm going to give it a taste now and talk to you guys about 246 at this very moment and see what you think. Lisa, I know you're out there. Are you drinking some 246 with me?
Or maybe I am in a second. I gotta open it.
All right. Well, you take your time. I'm discovering it right now. I have just come off of a series of great champagne moments in the last couple of days, from Christmas to dinner with some amazing friends to hosting a program we call Ultimate Champagne here in Los Angeles. I opened with 14 guests on Sunday. We had 15 incredible collectible champagnes. And then a night after, another great dinner with friends. So lots of champagne moments this week. And my champagne meter is really sharp. When you smell this beautiful 246, it's got just the right amount of salinity, a little bit of that saltiness. And a wonderful, you can even smell the purity of the Chardonnay and the Pinot Noir popping through the nose here. Great minerality, the chalky soils. Now, I think what's interesting when you're tasting a lot of champagne, you start to notice, oh, that house is very linear, very clean, very light, very piercing. That house over there is a little bit more butch, kind of like Paul Roger, very much into the use of long periods of lees contact, creating that autolytic, doughy notion that's really, really profound. And we were having the Sir Winston Churchill 13, which is just remarkable, but it's a beast. We had stuff like a Salon, which is super lean and clean and like a cutting with a X-Acto knife through your palate. It's so focused. This is got a nice wide broad spectrum. It's very generous and coating, and there's added weight, complexity, texture. The Blick thing, of course, we'll start with the balance and the length and the intensity and complexity. And so all these things are covered. Great balance, incredible length because of the nuances, the layers that they've been able to build with the quality fruit from the Cristal vineyard, from the time in wood to the time in bottle to the various appellations and the various varieties, each completely adding another notch to this wine. Happy New Year, Lisa.
Cheers.
Wow, that is so good.
Mm-hmm.
There's incredible intensity here. It's got so much persistence, and this is not a weak, light, thin, diluted, inexpensive champagne that you might find on the cheap. This has got all these quality foundational pieces that really are rewarding, significant. And I use a wine like this as like our benchmark. This is where we want people to find champagne, with a wine like this. And then you start branching into, oh, let's see if you like vintage. Let's see if you like Blanc de Blanc. Let's see if you like Rosé. And how do the aged wines treat you? This has got a little bit of something in it for everybody. It's going to be really easy to love. I hope you like it, Lisa.
I actually do, because I love oh my gosh, you showed a picture of it. Oh, you're going there.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is
Yeah.
why it's lovely though.
Thank you. Yeah, we're heading to Champagne in November, so we're getting our champagne.
Good evening.
Chops.
Welcome to Zoom into Wine. It's Wednesday night, New Year's Eve.
I think I just touched something. There we go.
Yeah, I love Ruinart, but this is quite lovely.
Oh, excellent. Yeah, I mean, everybody's got a favorite house, right? I love Ruinart. We're going to go to Ruinart too on our trip. And those are the type of things. It takes a little bit of wisdom. Start to figure out what you start to really like, start to appreciate. I got friends that are just super pumped about Billicart as a former Tattinger guy. Whenever I can drink Comte de Champagne, it's like the best day possible. And so we all start developing some preferences. And I really think that what Louis Roederer has been able to do is to build a wine that's really tough to not want to go to. They're taking away all the excuses. The quality's super high, and their the last few vintages have been scoring like champions. So when we look at the vineyards that they own and we think about the way they make the wines, it's really a complicated tale. Now, what we didn't talk about yet, Lisa, is the composition of Cristal, because remember, this wine's got 10% Cristal in it that we're drinking. But Cristal is really like the hyper selected, the oldest vines in the vineyards, the best iterations. If Champagne's the whole region's a diamond, they're going to pick the very best facets for where the wines can come from, the best exposure, the best elevation. They know where the best vines are, and that's what Cristal is. And this is a wine that's only made in good vintages. It's only made from land that they own. So this is a grower champagne. Cristal is a grower champagne. It's got a composition of 7 Grand Cru villages. There's 17 Grand Crus in Champagne. They've got vineyards in 7 of them. The wine is composed of about 60% Pinot and 40% Chardonnay, and the Pinot adds that roundness and richness, and the Chardonnay adds the length and the acidity, and so they really work very well together. The yin and the yang here. They've got named sites that they are including, Menil, Cremant, Avisé, and these are very famous sites for some of the best wines made, and that's where Cristal is coming from. So 32 separate Ludites, or little sites, 32 of them are involved in Cristal, and they're 100% estate grown, 100% biodynamic, and with Cristal, they can elevate that use of wood to 31%. There's no malolactic fermentation in Cristal. Wow, that is a pretty interesting change. And the idea is that when you have the wine go through MLF, it allows the wine to be ready a little sooner. Well, with Roederer, they're going to age Cristal until it does what malolactic can do. And that time is expensive, of course, but also critical to keeping the quality super high and letting time do the work. The current vintage is 2016. They just, moved through. I was buying 13 just a year ago. So they popped to the next vintage that they're selling to here for the US is 2016. That's almost 10 years and will be 10 years in just moments. Their dose in the Cristal is also at 7, so very consistent house style as far as the dose goes. And those harvest dates are right in line with someone who's very careful about picking at the right level. Now, Jean-René Barbier was my guest, and we recorded a session for him, and I'm sending it out to all of our members, and you'll get this as well, Lisa. You'll get the video interview I had with Jean-René Barbier, and he is the director of marketing for the U.S. market, and he gave us a lot of great insights, and he was our guest in this Champagne celebration. If you want to learn more about Champagne, I want you to come and taste with me at my Champagne classes. I do them throughout the year, a couple of times a quarter. We're doing a different version. Maybe it's a focus on rosés, maybe it's a focus on Blanc de Blanc, Maybe it's a focus on tete de cuvées. We move it around. We're never the same program twice. And Roederer's often the show-stopping wine of the lineup, as it was on Sunday. We tasted Krug next to Cristal, and it was a great comparison. Lisa, you're trying the 246, and we're having it out a half bottle. What a lot of people don't realize is the half bottle actually advances pretty quickly. So half bottles come into the marketplace a little before the full bottles, um, and they're ready to drink a little sooner because that half bottle is just going to allow the wine or increase the wine's aging program because the amount of glass to wine ratio. And that's something that they'll talk about with large formats, really slowing it down so you get magnums and even larger formats than magnums, and you could really see the wines barely budge in the bottle because there's so much wine versus the glass. So a really interesting study here. 246 is the new one, and it'll be coming in 750s with the new year. But they came into the market a couple of months ago with the half bottle. Half bottle is not something they always have available at Roederer, but it just came in just in time for our program, so we offered it up. Chardonnay, Pinot Meunier, and Pinot Noir each play kind of like different instruments in the band, and when champagne's properly strung together, it sings the song of the house, and this wine is singing absolutely the house song of Roederer. There's Jean-Baptiste, the winemaker. This wine got 93 points and represents a really good price value. Here it is at the half bottle at $46.95. It's hard to get too competitive with the half bottle because it's not very, it doesn't discount very much. They're just not in an aggressive spot with the half bottle. It takes about the same amount of work to bottle a half bottle as a full bottle. By the way, they do ferment the wine in the full bottles and transfer them to the smaller bottle. That's how you make a half bottle. With 245, I got 94 points. And a very similar composition to the 246. And this is where the value really is displayed. About $60 for a 750 of a great champagne. I think it's quite a bit less expensive than a lot of its competition. It's not trying to be the least expensive wine in the marketplace, but it could be a lot more expensive if they wanted it to. And it sells through at a very nice click. I buy it a couple of times a year, and each time gets a little further from the release date. They're probably taking price because of tariffs and other things, but the wine is continuing to climb. Same thing with Cristal, 2016. Make no apologies. This is perhaps, the greatest monument to champagne that's out there. That's an inch thick glass base on the bottle, and that was put there because the Tsar of Russia was afraid for his life that someone was going to sneak in a bomb in the bottom of the bottle. So he asked Louis Roederer, please make the bottle without a punt in the bottom and make the glass clear so that they can't hide a bomb in the bottle. Can you believe all that? Well, that's why the Cristal is what it is, and that's why they include that clear golden wrap on the bottle to protect it from sun and light. And so keep your bottle wrapped up if you've got it with that cellophane. Again, about 60-40 on the blend. And I just opened the 2016 on Sunday, and I can't believe how ready, how beautiful, and how approachable it was. It was There was nothing like overtly youthful about it. It was really energized. It was but it was so enjoyable. And that's just I think old school mentality is that you bottle it and it's okay if it tastes too young, it'll get there. Not at the House of Roederer. They don't release it until it's drinking well. 98 points for the Cristal. It's a big daddy. Um, that's a huge score. Not a lot of champagnes reach those marks. We're approaching $400 a bottle. It better be good. And it does not disappoint. And this wine does elevate in price. Not a lot of champagnes elevate in price. If you were to go back and buy the wine that you bought 10 years ago, maybe it would have been the 2005 Cristal Champagne. You'll see that wine is about $500 a bottle now. And if you go back into the 90s, some of the vintages from the 90s, like the 1990, that would be well north of $500 a bottle. And probably in 1999, when the 90 came out, that was a $150 bottle of wine or a $200 bottle of wine. So really significant price appreciation. My champagne investment plan has been a pretty good study. I've been more of a discusser of the plan than a action taker. I didn't save enough old champagne, Lisa. I didn't heed my own advice, but the champagne investment plan was my theory back then. If you bought champagne and you held it for 10 and 20 years, you were tripling your money, and it's certainly proven to be true. Well, I want to thank you guys for the year of 2025 and all of the Zooms that we've done throughout the years. I hope that the champagne moments are many for the months and the year ahead. I do think that 25 was a grueling vintage for some of us, and at times 25 was really rough. But I think that smoother days are ahead as we're all starting to acquaint ourselves with this new um, moment that we're in as a country and as a world and as an economy. There's a lot of new forces involved, and we're starting to see them coming on board. I think that we'll have some nice prosperity in 26, some very good tax returns, hopefully, will stimulate the economy in a great way. We'll see some, lots of people I know are having babies right now. So there's a bit, not necessarily a baby boom, but there's a lot of young families with kids. That's always an economic stimulator. And then, we are just making some of the greatest wines ever. And the vintage 2025 that we're just coming out of, while that we're reading about, lack of demand and some pressures in the wine industry that will probably bend us right back to where we're supposed to be in wine. But the quality in 2025 was a really good year, and there's going to be some magnificent wines made, and maybe there'll just be a little less bad wine made, or volume wine, and that'll bring the business right back into balance. It's a business that has gone through many different economic cycles, and we are definitely going to roll through this next one. But I've always believed that owning great wine and having it is never a bad idea, never a bad investment, and you'll be proud and happy that 10 years from now you have some great wines in your cellar. So continue to accumulate the right amount of wine for you and balance that portfolio. Have some champagne, get some Bordeaux, get some great Italians, reach out for some up and coming wines of the world. The stuff from Napa Valley is continuing to go up in price, and probably will be in parity with the great wines of the world in the coming years, because we get a little upset about Napa Valley being $200 a bottle, but the great wines of the world are $10,000, $5,000 a bottle now. And so Napa still has some room to run. And I think we're going to see the best wines get elevated, and the rest of the wine markets will be yinging and yanging, trying to find that right balancing spot. It's going to be a real dynamic year, and I think 26 is going to be a good one for everybody by the time we're done. So with that, I'll just say thank you, and I hope you guys have lots of champagne throughout the year. Cheers to you, Lisa, and thank you all for joining the Zoom. I hope you have a great year, and we'll talk to you on the other side.
Cheers. Auguri.
And go Dodgers.
Go Dodgers.
I think your Giants are going to be great too, Lisa.
Let's hope. That'd be good.
I love Buster. He's a good one.
So let's hope. All right.
Take care, guys. Bye now.
Cheers.
Thank you.